All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us here in this video. I'm glad you're here. And if you see my hair blowing around, I don't know if it will or not, but it's been over 100 degrees here in Texas for I don't know how long. It's been quite a while. And so I'm out here in this garage, and it's not air conditioned, and it's got to be in the high 90s in this garage. And so what I've done is I've got a couple little funky fans pointed at me. And if my hair starts blowing around, that's why. I don't know if it will, but if it does, that's why. And so just thought I'd throw that out there so you're not thinking, what's going on with his hair? Why is it blowing around? Is he trying to do a shampoo commercial or something? No, I'm just trying to survive. So in this video, we're going to look at the idea of what is known as the partial rapture. And this teaches that when the rapture occurs, there will be some believers who are taken and some genuine believers who will be left behind. Now, the church I grew up in believed this and taught this. The primary passage used is Matthew 25, 1 through 13, where we find the parable of the 10 virgins, which is a parable that emphasizes being ready. And let me just say here at the beginning, many don't believe this parable is speaking about the rapture at all. Why? Because of the way the parable begins. Matthew 25, 1, at that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like. At that time, what time? Now remember, there are no chapter breaks in the original. So what was Jesus teaching just prior to this? He was teaching about the second coming and was warning people to be ready. That's Matthew 24, 29. Immediately after the distress of those days. What days? The 3.5 years of distress that begins at the abomination of desolation, where the Antichrist strolls into the Holy of Holies in the rebuilt temple and declares to be God and demands to be worshipped. At that point, all hell literally breaks loose in Israel, and Jesus tells the Jews they've been deceived and they need to flee. So there are many who say the context dictates that this parable is about Jesus' return to earth in the second coming, and honestly, they have a very strong argument. But there are many good people, many good teachers that do believe it is speaking about the rapture. So let's look at that. Let's assume it is speaking about the rapture and is teaching some believers will be taken and others left behind. So let's put on our detective hat and dig in, because we're going to have to look for some clues here. And let's begin with the 10 virgins, or bridesmaids as some translations put it. Matthew 25, 1 through 2. At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. So we have 10 women waiting for the bridegroom to come for his bride. 5 are wise and 5 are foolish. Now, what is the difference between them? The next 2 verses tell us. Matthew 25, 3 through 4. The foolish ones took their lamps but did not take any oil with them. The wise, however, took oil in jars along with their lamps. So here is some necessary clues as to what is happening here. What does oil symbolize in the scriptures? Well, it's the Holy Spirit, isn't it? So our first clue is this. At the time the bridegroom shows up, the wise have their lamps and oil, but the foolish have no oil. So is this the spiritual believers going in the rapture, but the carnal believers being left behind? Well, I don't think so. I think the difference here is 5 are believers who have the oil, and the 5 without the oil are unbelievers. Now, why do I say that? Because every true believer has the Spirit, right? Romans 8, 9. You, however, are not in the realm of the flesh, but are in the realm of the Spirit, if indeed the Spirit of God lives in you. Now here it is. And if anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, or the Holy Spirit, they do not belong to Christ. So this gives us our first clue about the 5 foolish virgins who are shut out of God's kingdom. They are unbelievers. They may be interested in religious things and kind of like hanging around with genuine believers. I mean, when there's nothing better to do, right? They may even like going to church. It makes them feel good about themselves. And the singing, it's kind of nice. Plus, you don't have to be a true Christian to like a system that teaches morals in a world gone crazy and an organization that seems to like each other. Or it might be for the kids. I've talked to so many who say, they're not going to church because they feel they need it, but they think it's a good idea for their kids. So these 5 don't mind being with believers. They just aren't believers themselves. They haven't taken that final step into the kingdom. They are what we could call the religious lost. Now watch how this story unfolds in verses 5 through 10. Matthew 25, 5 through 10. The bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight, the cry rang out, 'Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him.' Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise, 'Give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out.' 'No,' they replied, 'there may not be enough for both us and you. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves.'" In other words, you can't be saved through somebody else's faith. You need your own faith. But while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. So the groom has come. The 5 wise virgins go out to meet him, while the 5 foolish are forced to hunt for some oil for their lamps. The wise virgins go in to enjoy the wedding banquet, and the door is shut. Now in verses 11 and 12, we find out who these foolish virgins are. And it's crystal clear, I think. Matthew 25, 11 and 12. Later the others also came. "Sir, sir," they said, "open the door for us." But he replied, "I tell you the truth, I don't know you." Now, does that remind you of something else? Well, it's Matthew 7, verses 22 and 23, right? "Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles?' Then I will tell them plainly, 'I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.'" Well, that's radical. There's going to be a multitude on that day that think they're on their way to heaven, but they aren't. So whether you think this is the second coming or the rapture, this is not teaching that true believers are being left behind. All the believers here in this parable go. Those who are left, they may be religious, but they're not saved. So what this is teaching is the believer and unbeliever can mix in the church, and many times you can't tell them apart. They look alike, but Jesus' warning is this: be ready. This is not a game. There is coming a time when there will be no more time to get right with God. So make sure you know the Lord. Make sure you're a genuine believer and haven't just become religious, hanging around believers. Religion is not enough to save you. Your own goodness or morality will always fall short of what God requires. Only those who place their faith in what Jesus has done for them and not what they do for him will be in heaven. So whether you see this parable as referring to the rapture or the second coming, the warning is the same. Be ready. So does this teach a partial rapture? No, I don't think so. Here you have 5 genuine believers, and they all go, and 5 unbelievers who don't. Those that Jesus said he didn't know. Jesus knows all true believers. He didn't know them in a relational way, and so they did not go in with him. So please make sure you're part of the right 5. All right, God bless you guys. Thanks for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and I want to thank all of you who are supporting the ministry so we can keep this up. And so we'll see you in the next video. God bless.